Hi everyone. Yeah, my door is closed. We are good. Hey, it's Demi here from Rockstar Priestess, live streaming today, and I am not naked. I'm wearing a sarong. Too hot for clothes. Too hot for clothes. My little office room is a little sweaty box. So here we are. Let me sort this out. So today we're here to talk about Morgan le Fay because, hint, hint, in case you didn't know, I am running a course called Morgan le Fay Summer Mystery School, where we get to know Morgan le Fay through her many phases. So many goddesses have many different phases. And what do I mean by this? I mean many different faces that they present to the world. Morgan is an example. She's got her many different skills. I like to think of her phases as her different skill sets and her different areas of expertise and her different roles of, let's call it roles of awesomeness. Hey Teresa. And we look at her in her different aspects. So, for example, we look at her as High Priestess, as Sorceress, as Enchantress, as Fairy Queen, as Lover, because trying to look at them all at the same time is very overwhelming, and it's very hard to connect deeply with something when it's overwhelming. So we break it down, and that way we get to really immerse ourselves in each part of Morgan le Fay's awesomeness and skills, and everybody will resonate with some parts of Morgan le Fay's talents, some aspects of her more than others. For example, I really resonate with her High Priestess side, I really resonate with her Enchantress side, and I very resonate with her Sisterhood side, but her healer side, that's something I do not resonate with quite as much, because healing hasn't really been a focus of mine. Hey Michelle, lovely to see you. So we break it down so then we can get to know her in greater depth and detail. And because it's fun that way. That way we get to learn about all this void stuff at Samhain and get excited about emptying into nothingness and follow all that death stuff. And then another time of the year, or at some other time, it doesn't have to be a time of the year, we can go crazy with all the enchantress stuff and learning about glamours and figuring out how to enchant for stuff that we just want, not for some great higher purpose. And what's interesting about Morgan le Fay is that I feel like some of her aspects are contradictory. So if she's in her like Queen of Avalon, High Priestess, working for the greater good of her people mode, she's got that where she's working her will for, I don't know, said in hippie terms, raising the vibration or providing that spiritual home for people. But on the flip side, if you go back to Enchantress, she wants a hot date, so she's gonna cast a spell to get a hot date, and she wants to have enough money to buy a new car, so she does that. It's contradictory, but I like it because we are very contradictory people, as just people generally. I both want the liberation of all women everywhere to be able to feel free and at home in their bodies and in their sexuality. But I also really want to go to Thailand next year and swim with some fish. So you can house two different kinds of desires at the same time. And the cool thing about Morgan le Fay is that she's not going to push you to try and be a spaced out, holier than thou, super white light hippie, because I don't think that's not really how she works, because she's elemental, she's very earthy, she's very down to earth. You need to have a concept of earthiness, and you need to not gloss over everything that is hard or difficult or challenging with false positivity. She wants you to feel into what is real, which is fascinating. So today, Madness, we wanted to talk about her aspects, we wanted to talk about her connections to other goddess, and some little stories. If anybody watching has any questions or comments they'd like to make, please do type them in the box. Sometimes there's a bit of a delay, so it takes me a little while to see them and respond to them, but I would love to hear, because I'm just here to tell you all about Morgan le Fay. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her as an overview, and then I'm going to talk about her connections to other goddesses. So, Morgan le Fay is she is a sovereign goddess of Avalon. Avalon is I think of it as the spiritual counterpart of England. It's this Celtic otherworld, and it is this home of women's mysteries, spiritual initiation, and healing. And the current of that other world lives throughout all the world. So you could be in California, you could be in Thailand. Either of those places, you can still access this magic of Avalon because it's like an undercurrent. Morgan le Fay is the Queen of Avalon. She rules with a sisterhood of 9, and but she's generally thought to be the head of the 9 sisters, or at least the most magically talented of them, and the most talented at healing. She's known to be a great healer. She's known to be a great witch and sorceress and enchantress, which is the word I prefer. And she is known to be quite challenging. In many of the stories that we've grown up with Morgan le Fay, she's a stone cold bitch, and she's trying to get one over on her family at Camelot. She's always portrayed as a noble lady in a romantic medieval setting of kings and queens. And in many of the stories that we grew up with, she's the bad guy. She's this powerful, sexy, witchy lady who's always trying to seduce some boys or kill over Arthur or gain some power for her own in this court system. So we grew up with her as a baddie, but to be fair, I think a lot of us saw her as a baddie and were like, go Morgan, go! Because I think a lot of us resonate with that bad girl archetype, not because we want to do the stereotypical thing and be all bad gal Riri and wear leather and shoplift and stuff. That's not it. It's this idea of this power that is just unstoppable and uncontainable. That raw, powerful femininity, that sense of a woman in these stories having that incredible magical power to shift the world as she wanted. We got excited about that as kids, didn't we? Yes, we did. And especially as how the other women are portrayed, mainly the other woman we know about in modern Arthurian mythos is Guinevere. She's portrayed as a goody two-shoes, and goody two-shoes are boring. They are boring. Boring. So of course we're all excited about Morgan le Fay, who doesn't play by the rules and knows what she wants and is trying to become the queen. We kind of root for her a little bit, or at least I do. Well, mainly I get really annoyed that she's only portrayed as like a one-dimensional baddie and not as the complex, interesting character she really is. And what's interesting about that is Guinevere, at her root, Guinevere isn't a doting Christian, meek and mild lady either. She is a powerful fairy queen. Her name is White Phantom in Welsh. There is a little bit of evidence that I'm going to run with that has her as an ancient Welsh sovereignty goddess. And her marriage to Arthur in the stories is about, I think she's from the kingdom of Logres. I'm not sure. I'll check it up in my book. The thing about Guinevere marrying King Arthur is that nobody quite knows where she comes from. She's not like a super fancy princess of a famous king. She's the daughter of this king that comes out of nowhere. She's the daughter of a fairy king, and she is literally the merging of the king with the land. Sovereignty goddess extreme. The fairy goddess, the fairy queen, just like in the old stories of Rhiannon. And I feel like Rhiannon and Guinevere have quite a lot of similarity there. White Phantom, the white spirit, the white princess who rides through the night, and King Arthur, and then they got married. Whoop, married. And that is the sacred marriage of the land and the goddess. And then in the stories, she also acts as an initiator in Arthur's journeys and in the king's knight's journeys. She gets abducted every now and again, and then the knights have to go and overcome something on the hero's journey to do it, and she's always trying to pull them back towards right relationship with the land in the original stories. And of course, as time goes by, she's characterized as the Christian wife, the good one, the white good lady, and in the end she's also a bit of a hoey scumbag, because hey, Christian monks, aren't all women hoey scumbags at heart? Yes, they are. No, they're not, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so where was I? I have no idea. Oh, thunder, exciting. Okay, so let's talk about Morgana's connections to other goddesses. Oh, first, does anyone have any questions about Morgan le Fay or who she is? If you do, pop a little question in the comments and I'll explain better. So, Morgan le Fay being this strange, otherworldly goddess, kind of fairy queen, kind of spiritual initiator, kind of a what's the word, healer, this ever-present figure in Arthurian mythology. And the way she's described harkens back to older Celtic traditions, older Celtic beliefs, older ways. Her appearance in the stories is a really fascinating reflection of a time when they were pushing forward with these old King Arthur stories. King Arthur legend was a big thing in like 1300, 1200, and before. It's thought King Arthur is based on I think it was a Roman centurion sometime in the Dark Ages. I can't remember. I'll look it up sometime. I don't remember the fact about the dudes as much as I do about the ladies. And oh, it's got dark. And she nowadays is worshipped as she's kind of known as a dark goddess, but as my friend Sarita de Est says, dark goddesses are never really dark goddesses. They are goddesses that hold the light into the darkness to illuminate it so that you may deal with what is there. She is nowadays she's really tends to be worshipped as a Queen of Avalon figure, as a woman of spiritual transformation, as a goddess of magic and sorcery. You tend to get two ways branches with Morgan these days. We either go up the gothic pentagrams, black velvet, medieval dresses, super sorceress, super magician witch way. And then we have the New Age way, which is the love and light Morgana as this beautiful, magnificent source of love and transformation for Avalon that has no downsides, and that she is beautiful in every way, and she's like the ascended master kind of route. Both of them are kind of valid, but neither of them are the whole story, and I feel like both of them are. We live in a very dualistic society where we either have one extreme or the other extreme. So we have one extreme, super love and light, the violet flame, Morgan le Fay, who is valid, but that's only a part of her. And on the other extreme, we have the super black clothes, midnight candles, super witchy Morgan le Fay, which again is a big part of her, but it's just one part of her. She's so much more than that. So what I work with in our Morgan le Fay Mystery School is the 9 aspects of Morgan le Fay. Morgan le Fay always works in triplicities of 9 because it's a sacred amount. It's a sacred number. It's an ancient Celtic number of magical feminine awesomeness. Let's say that. So we work with her in 9s. We have the Initiatrix, the Enchantress, the Fairy Lover, the Healer, the Sacred Sister, the Queen, the Goddess of Death, and the High Priestess. And in the center, number 9, we have Morgan le Fay as herself, the Sorceress, the Goddess of Transformation. I'm still working on these, so they're not all completely set in stone yet. Okay, so that is about Morgan le Fay. How about her connections to other goddesses? So within the British Isles, she is possibly a descendant of the Morrigan, who is a Welsh goddess. Now, we know a lot more about the Morrigan than we know about any British goddesses. We have very scant information on most British goddesses. Oh, sorry guys, I don't know why it's gone so dark in here. Can I fix it? Nah, it's just dark and grainy for the wind. Oh, hello, someone at the door. It's not for me, it's okay. Okay, so in the British Isles, we don't have a lot of information on our pre-Christian goddesses. This is because the pre-Christian folks, the Druids, the spiritual awesome people, they didn't write stuff down. In fact, it was a taboo to write things down. If something was worth remembering, something was worth knowing, it was worth remembering. So they would remember things by heart, they would learn it so they could recite it from memory. And in that way, the knowing of the thing would be deep within them, which is very beautiful, I think, and fascinating considering now we have that over stimulation and over. Oh my god, it's raining. This is the second time it's rained here in 2 months. It's amazing. And the dogs are going insane. I'm sorry, they don't like thunder, and they're very surprised about rain right now. Okay, we're good. Okay, so in with the Druids, they did not write things down, they learned things by heart. Yes, that is what they did. So we don't really have any written records of the gods and goddesses of pre-Christian Britain, which kind of sucks for us, really. We do have very scant records of pre-Christian spirituality, pre-Christian gods and goddesses. For example, the Mabinogi, which is ancient Welsh text, but we have to remember that that was a text that was transcribed through stories that the Christian clerics and monks had heard. And for them, they came from a system of thought that didn't understand the Celtic way. So the whole way the Celtic mythology would have been set up would be completely alien to them. So number one, they're trying to record that. Number two, they do not believe in gods other than their own, and they don't believe in women being awesome, so there's that bias. A lot of the things we read nowadays, they are written by people that had a vested agenda to discredit this stuff. Read the Mabinogi, Rhiannon is in there. She is just a princess, a Misk princess who's got some supernatural power, but she's a human person. She's not a goddess like she would have been, and we have to really read between the lines about this stuff. So Irish mythology, however, we have more recordings there. I'm not sure. Hi Zua, I hope I said your name right. We have a lot more things written about this. Again, they were written by Christian dudes, so they're not exactly super reliable. You have to be smart when you look at them, but we have more there than we do the British and Welsh. So roundabout, we're talking about the Morgan. The Morgan was a very important sovereignty and battle goddess of the Irish Celts, a long time ago, like 1500 years ago plus, maybe a bit less, 1500 years ago-ish. She was a nowadays she's considered to be a dark goddess because she's a battle goddess, and like I said, everyone's afraid of dark goddesses because they make you have a look at your shadows. They make you shine into the darkness so the light can blossom, which is challenging when people don't like to be challenged. Morgan is triple goddess. She has 3 parts of her, but she's also, whoa, guys. Oh my god. It's like a proper insane storm out there. It's so exciting. So she is a triple goddess with many facets, and she's also a shapeshifter. And when you look at shapeshifter goddesses, they are very liminal in that they don't really have boundaries where one part of them ends and another part of them begins, where one goddess ends and another goddess begins. They could be the same goddess, they could be different goddesses. We don't know. It's the shifty nature of them. So we have Morgan as one of her influences. Some people think that Morgan is just that Morgan le Fay is just an aspect of Morgan. I disagree. I would say Morgan le Fay is an evolution of the Morgan. She has shifted and changed with the centuries, with her exposure to England, with her exposure to Britain, with the British mystery traditions. with the legends within Britain, and she's evolved into something different. And I'd say Morgan le Fay is a very modern goddess because her mythology and story is still changing today. The way people relate to her today is people relate to her in very different ways. She's very much still a present and emerging goddess. And I would say that in the same way that you have Aphrodite. She's a magnificent goddess, but she is not on her own. Very few goddesses just emerge on their own, out of nothing, in this linear boxing way that we're used to with patriarchal religions. They emerge through, oh my god, it's insane. I wish you could see. It wouldn't mean anything through the screen though. Goddesses emerge via evolution. So we have Aphrodite, who we know and we respect and we love. But Aphrodite also came who she was through Atargatis, who was another goddess in the Middle East, in the Near East. And she had her own very important cult. She evolved through Ishtar and Inanna, more Ishtar than Inanna, I think. And she had her own important cult. And maybe she came from Isis, who had her own important cult. But just because there is a root goddess and other goddesses who evolve off her, it doesn't mean that Aphrodite therefore is not as important or as powerful as Ishtar. They're just different. They're the same family tree, only grown in different ways. Holy shit. Sorry guys, it's mental out there. It's like someone's got a bucket and is just doing this at my window after 2 months of no rain. Can you see? You can't really see. Look at that. It means nothing to you, but it's amazing. Okay. So, thinking about it that way, we have other goddesses in the British Isles who Morgan le Fay is related to. We have Madron, who is a Welsh goddess, a mother goddess who we know very little about. And those two are the main ones who really relate into Morgan le Fay in this country. However, Morgan le Fay is a travelling goddess. She has been present all over Western Europe, even though her stories always tend to place her within the British Isles, and her stories are always about nobility, about knights, about courtly love, about chivalric codes, about the noble quest and the hero, which in olden days, in medieval times, would have been confined to knights and aristocracy, because ain't nobody got time for spiritual awakenings and journeys and learning stuff like how to read and write, because everyone's got to survive back then. No one has the luxury of learning how to be a sorceress, learning how to do this stuff except for the nobility, which is why she's always framed in the nobility. So we have stories in Morgan le Fay from France, stories written in French from France. We have stories about Morgan le Fay that aren't related to the Arthurian mythos at all. Not many of them, but some. We have stories in Morgan le Fay connected to other noble, legendary kings and knights in Europe, like Ogier the Dane and Orlando, Roland the Knight. She crops up in those stories. And we have connections of her to other areas. There is a story, I can't remember which one. I write all about this in Morgan le Fay Summer Mystery School, so it's all there and it's fascinating and it's interesting and I'm always learning more. There's this one story, I think it's the Veil of No Return, where she captures Lancelot in her castle. She does a lot of capturing sexy men and trying to get them to be her love slaves. That's the thing. And in the Valley of No Return, where unfaithful knights can never return to their loves. And this valley, just like Glastonbury and Avalon have this correlation, this valley is correlated with a place, enchanted forest, that is a real place in Brittany, in France. Avalon is also associated with some places in France too, and in Italy as well. In Italy, there is an illusion called a Fata Morgana, which is an illusion of, it's like a mirage. Oh, I'm getting cold. It's like a mirage. You can see the, and it gives this impression of there being castles floating in the sea, or usually the sea, sometimes over deserts or tundra. Of course, you don't have a lot of those in Italy, but it's known as a Fata Morgana because Morgana is so associated within the old Italian folklore traditions as the goddess of Avalon, as this mysterious shape-shifting enchantress who rules an island that crazy magical illusionary effects are attributed to her. Fucking cool. Also, there is a very famous Renaissance story called Orlando Furiosa and Orlando Immorta. Angry Orlando and Orlando in Love, pretty much. And these stories form the inspiration for a lot of so many stories about heroes. A lot of Shakespeare is inspired by these Orlando stories. So there is a tradition of Morgan le Fay in Italy. Not only that, there is a tradition of Morgan le Fay in Greco-Italian, Greco-Roman stories. So if you want to look at who Morgan le Fay resembles the most, we've got Circe, the enchantress goddess who lived on this island, who ruled this island. It was a beautiful, blissful island. People come to the island. She falls in love. She looks after them. She keeps him there for as long as she wants him, and then he leaves. It's incredibly Morgan le Fay. Incredibly like the stories of Morgan le Fay. And when people were writing the Morgan le Fay stories in the medieval times, in like, I don't know, 12th century to about the 14th century, a well-rounded medieval education would have involved learning about classics, about Greek mythology, about Roman mythology, because Rome and Greece have been hot for centuries, guys. Everyone's obsessed with them. So a lot of the, if you look at later stories of Arthurian mythology, if you look at later stories of Morgan le Fay and her sisters are given Greek names: Thetis, Moronoe, Mazoe, Gliten, Glitania, Cleton. These are all Greek words, Greek names. There is a nymph called Thetis. Thetis? Yes, it is Thetis, I think, who is a who was the mother of someone important. She was an ocean nymph who I think had sex with Poseidon. But this comes from the Greek, so there is a link between the great mystery schools of the Greeks, the old ways of the Greeks, where it is all about powerful women and enchantresses and magical women, and Avalon. So she's truly a continental goddess. She's a shapeshifter. She gets around. Her archetype, if we take her out of her personality, because Morgan le Fay has a very definite personality, if we take her out of her personality and look at her as an archetypal being, she is the archetype of the enchantress. She is the archetype of the strong woman who is a queen, but is an enchanted queen, who goes for what she wants and goes against the permitted view of what women are allowed to want and women are allowed to have. She goes for what she wants and she gets it. She wants to rule a kingdom. She does it. People don't like it. Tough. She does it anyway. She is that kind of power which the patriarchy has historically been terrified of, because a woman with power is a dangerous woman. A woman in charge of her sexuality is a dangerous woman. Sorry, I just have to check something a second. Someone's been trying to call me for the last like 5 minutes. Sorry, team. And now Facebook's slow. Okay, we're okay. We're good. All right, so Morgan le Fay ticks so many boxes of things that the historic patriarchy, that the old school Christian guys would not have approved of. She is sexual, she is sensual, she is magical, she has power, she can make men do what she wants them to do. She can capture knights and hide them in palaces. And for a culture which was trying to have as much control over women as possible, so then you could control their reproduction, so you could control their womb, a woman with independence and free agency was terrifying. And even today, a woman with independence and free agency and free choice is still very upsetting to a lot of the patriarchy. So, yeah. And I think her archetype does relate to many other goddesses. Like Suzanne mentioned her relation to Hecate. They fulfill very, I feel, quite similar roles. Hecate, not that I know enough about Hecate to say this, but this is what I know. Hecate as this woman who couldn't be, in the Greek mythologies, she was the one that the patriarchy kind of left alone as much as possible, that even the other gods, Zeus and his bros, didn't mess with Hecate because she held this power and deep knowing and this being the voice of this mystery that was scary and powerful, and it's something you don't fuck with. So she is present as herself throughout the whole thing. Hecate as a goddess is also a goddess of the darkness. She's a goddess that many people hide from because, like Morgan, she will hold up her light and hold your hand and walk with you right into the shadows. So you have to face what is there and fucking deal with it. These kind of goddesses are very grounded and they're very real world, and they're like, okay, deal with this, do it. They will be what they need to be to get you to where you need to go. This is why Morgan le Fay is an unbelievable goddess for anyone learning about themselves on a path of self-discovery, on a spiritual path, on a magical path. She's incredible because she will take you the way you need to go. She will either be unbelievably patient or she will like push you off a cliff and make you deal with it. Whatever's going to work to get you there, that is what Morgan is going to do. Okay guys, so I am going to wrap up in just a second. If you have any questions, now is the time to pop them in the comment box because I've only got another minute to answer them. And an interesting thing that I have, so when I did the Enchanters Retreat in Glastonbury, which was so much fun, a Morgan sister, because whenever you guys come and work with me on Morgan le Fay, you all bring so much incredible experience and knowledge and wisdom in ways that I just don't have. Every Morgan sister brings her own thing. And I was talking to Morgan's sister Hannah, and she was talking about how she really feels that there is a massive connection between Morgan le Fay and between Mary Magdalene, and because there are stories, true, not true, I don't know, about the bloodline of Mary Magdalene, that she went to France. This idea is that she went to Glastonbury and she that her bloodline was spiritual teachers, and that they settled at Glastonbury, which is of course where Joseph of Arimathea came and settled here and created his church, his mystery school here in Glastonbury. And the idea that Morgan le Fay was a real life woman, there is that too. She could have been a real life woman in, I don't know when, maybe about 800, maybe a bit later, who taught at the mystery school here in Glastonbury. There probably was one. It's a sacred place. Mystery schools pop up. And that is her blood there. And then we have Morgan le Fay as an archetype in the New Age community, who is seen as an incarnation of Lady Portia, who is the keeper of the violet flame. And that's fascinating as well. But I've been going for 35 minutes, so it's time for me to stop. If you want to learn more about Morgan, come join me in mystery school. It's great. I love it. Everyone loves it. Meditations are shit hot. Everything is beautiful. Registration for mystery school goes until the midnight on Monday the 6th of August, British time. Note my British accent, it is the time I live within. Teresa says, do you have a Morgana tarot or oracle deck? Alas, Teresa, I do not. I work with, which Morgan? I don't really have a specific deck I dedicate to Morgan le Fay. Most of my decks are dedicated in a way to Morgan le Fay because she is a prophetess and she is a powerful goddess of divination. So they're all hers, but I've seen a bunch of Avalon ones, but I haven't liked the artwork on a lot of them. One day, in my never-ending list of projects, I want to make one, but let's give that 20 years before that happens, because we'll see. But if you find a really beautiful one, do let me know, because I would love a Morgan le Fay specific oracle or tarot deck. There is the Wisdom of Avalon deck, which is quite nice. I worked with that a few times. And I don't know, I haven't really seen any other Avalon specific ones that I've vibed with. I come from a art history background. I trained as an artist. I trained as a bit as an art historian. And so I am so picky when it comes to art and when it comes to tarot, and a lot of the new age stuff and the witchy pagan stuff doesn't cut it for me. It needs to be better. So yeah, if I find one, I will let you know, Teresa, and you will know that my picky little eyes have picked it out well. How do I talk to her, and how do I know if she's in communication with you? That's interesting. In fact, I have a blog post going out to my email list in a couple of days about that very specific topic. Morgan le Fay, to really connect in with her, you have to make space for her to be. This is the same for all goddesses. You have to make enough space in your life for her to be heard. So if you are literally in normal modern day human mode, rushing around all the time, checking your phone, going do this, and there is no space in your mind or space in your life for the divine to come through, it ain't gonna get through because there is no space for it. You need to create a vacuum for the divine to kind of filter into, which I find very challenging because I am all over the place. I do too many projects, my brain runs a million miles a minute. It really is a process of learning to trust your intuition. For me, I connect with goddesses through devotion, through altars, through a lot of prayer, through a lot of offerings, through just talking to them and thinking about them and inviting them into my life on many levels. From saying, hey Morgan, come into every part of my life please, you are welcome, to learning about things that she'd be interested in honor of her, like learning about herbalism or learning more about ancient Celtic ways, or reading Arthurian stories, or working with the moon, or even go for a walk and then praying to her the whole time I'm walking, or saying hi to her whenever I see a crow. It's just flicking that awareness to her, so then you are acting in resonance with her energy. And then it's a process of learning to trust yourself and your intuition, letting yourself trust your own intuitive hits, trust your imagination, and deepening into that. I know that she is in communication with you because I feel it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Sometimes it's stronger than others. Sometimes I'll have a crazy powerful vision and I'm like, I didn't plan any of that, oh my goodness. And it's stunning and it's amazing and the feeling is... Sometimes I will be doing my guided meditations and my visions, and I will feel like it's half her and it's half my own inner wisdom, but still that is valuable. Whatever you're connecting with inside yourself, that is, even if it's not Morgan, even if it's not Aphrodite, even if it's not Isis, it is still the sacred part of you. The sacred part of you holds the wisdom, and you know it is her because it feels like her. I know it's Morgan when she talks to me because it feels like Morgan. There is an energy that she comes with that I just know it's her. I know it's Aphrodite or Venus when I talk to them because they have a different energy. She has a very different energy to Morgan le Fay. I know the energy of Rhiannon, who I also work with, very different energy. Yamaja, very different energy. But when I connect with her and it's true, I can feel that strength and that very potent, specific energy. And as I said, sometimes it's all her, sometimes it's a vision that's completely out of my control and I'm taking it out of my little head somewhere else. And other times, more often other times, it is a vision that is part me and part her. But that doesn't mean it's not sacred, because it comes from your own inner genius, because it comes from your own inner, what is the word? Inner God self, that part of you that is connected to the divine. That is still a part that is connected to the divine. It's still important. So yeah, that's how I talk to her. Often I'll just say, I'll ask her a question and then I will trust what comes to you. The first thing that comes to me, providing it comes with the same feel. It's like feeling. So when we work, I run a course called Rockstar Priestess Practice, which covers a lot of this stuff. It's really good, it's really useful. And I also run I'm going to be running a big, oh my goodness guys, I'm going to be running a very big training course based around Morgan le Fay, based around intuition, based around priestess stuff later in this year. And that is really focused in on trusting this intuition and paying attention to it and creating space for it to grow, because absolutely pivotal, important part of a priestess that all of us could use more work on, me included. So yeah, so that was my talk on Morgan le Fay. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to join us for Morgan le Fay Summer Mystery School, it is open on my website until midnight British time on Monday the 6th of August. We begin that week with the new moon, and you get a little thing that goes before then as well. And it's going to be really great. I'm very excited. I am working my little ass off to get it out to you guys. It always takes so long. But yeah, lovely to see you all. Thank you very much for coming.